All right, Yellowjackets. It's that time of the week. It's time to huddle up. Talk about the new episode.
Buzz, buzz, buzz.
There's a lot of buzzing in this episode. A lot happened.
Oh my God. I'm still buzzing from watching this episode. So I can't wait to finally discuss it. I've watched it like on repeat since it came out. So I'm thrilled with everything. I just can't wait for the next one already.
I was about to ask you how many times did you rewatch the last 15 minutes of this episode? But
Oh, a lot. I mean, the first time I was like, I need to process this. This is gonna take multiple rewatches because it gets pretty weird and awesome in the best ways. So
it's a pretty
definitely
wild
like at
episode.
least 5 times I'll say I watched this episode, maybe five more, maybe more than that, but probably at least five.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like it starts with Mari trying to seduce Coach Ben, and then my favorite thing, him just being like, Mari, I'm gay. I would
And
never.
even if I wasn't, I would rather stab myself something through my eye all the way through my brain rather than touch you. So fucking funny. This opening scene was really hilarious, honestly. I wasn't expecting it. And like the fact that like she's trying to seduce him, singing like I'm too sexy for this cave, I'm too sexy to be murdered. I was like, this is
Yeah.
so good. As much as I really just cannot stand Mari because she's such a bitch, I honestly was like, okay, that's pretty funny. And then her trying to make the moves on Coach and like him just being like, you literally, like, and I quote, like, spread a rumor that I had raging gonorrhea. And she was like,
Yeah.
less competition, like, all this stuff. And it's so funny because he's just like, no, I am fucking gay. And like, just get away from me. And then the fact that, like, she maces him at the end of this.
The
And then
bear
the
mace.
bear mace, because I saw that around his belt. They focused in on it. So I figure that she's going to go for it. And I remember him finding that in the package or in the box in the first episode. So it was great that she did. Of course, she did that. He's like, let's just calm down. And then she's like fucking spraying it while tied up. So, like Ben points out, like, there's nothing she could have done afterwards. She would have been fucked. And then I love that he sprays her back, and her immediate response is like, "What? I can't believe you fucking sprayed me." He's like, "What are you talking about? You fucking did it first, you idiot." And then them screaming going into the opening,
Yeah.
intro with the song, just perfection. A scream leading into the song is kind of their thing now, and I'm all about it. That's my favorite.
I forget is Natalie the only one who knows that Coach is gay, or has
I think
that
so. Well, I
information been
guess
distributed?
only Misty, but I doubt that she told everyone that because she was
Oh wait.
embarrassed because everyone thought that they were together, whatever the fake relationship. He finally ended up telling her when they were on the shrooms at the end of season one.
Oh, that's right. It was Misty. It wasn't Natalie. It was Misty.
Yeah. He did tell Natalie though before
Oh, he
that.
did. Okay.
Yeah, so season one he told both of them, but then yeah, I don't think Misty has really done anything with that information except she threatened it, I guess, last season when he almost threw himself off the cliff. She was like, I'll tell everyone you're gay. And he's like, go for it. Like, and now he just openly says it to Mari. So I was like, just even looking at that, Ben's come a long way. I mean, he's not at all the same person almost.
Yeah.
Like, he's still the same at the core, I think, compared to the other characters, but like,
Yeah.
he's come a long way in terms of like, himself, I think. And I'm like, it was just a nice little transition to see how quickly he's like, no, I'm gay. Like, I don't care about that anymore. Obviously, there's a lot more things to be worried about out in the woods for
Yeah.
Ben, especially. So I enjoyed their whole like the funniness at the beginning. And then afterwards, I thought his whole monologue with her of like, I'm just a regular guy. How
Yeah.
is this even fucking real? Like, how is this actually happening? It just made me so sad because I was like, he's also the only one who I feel like, who obviously we know has not eaten anybody else, regardless of if they died and then they ate him, whatever, or hunted. So he's like the only one who's really retaining that last bit of humanity that's like back from society. And it's just so sad to see him like this because I feel like they're really making us, relate or feel for Ben. And now he's captured by the girls at the end. So we're going to see something bad happen to him and it's going to make us even more sad. That's what I feel. I really hope it's not true, but I do feel like that's what's coming next for
Yeah.
Ben.
When the end happened and yeah, they're taking him, I just started getting vibes of like, oh, we're getting the Yellow Jackets version of that season of Game of Thrones where Tyrion is on trial the whole
Yep.
season,
Oh,
which is
such a good.
maybe the best season.
Oh, season four is 100% the best, one of the best of Game of Thrones. But I agree, like it feels like we're gonna get. I mean, I believe next episode is called 12 Angry Girls and One Drunk Travis. And I think it's like been because I think they only released 4 episodes to the critics. So they were saying that episode 4 was like the standout episode because I think it's named after like 12 Angry Men, the movie, which I believe is like a legal movie about like
Mm.
a I don't know, fucking, I don't know what it's about. But 12 Angry Lawyers, probably. So this sounds like we're getting like a full on legal episode. They're going to be putting him to trial. I don't know what kind of evidence they're going to have for him burning down the house, except for that he's the only one that wasn't there. But like, it feels pretty flimsy to say that we're going to be able to say 100% certainly he did anything. I know they all believe that, but like, I'm curious how the next episode goes for Ben. I really hope he is okay, but I kind of feel like this might be where they fully descend into total madness.
Yeah, because it's like they're not gonna go through a whole justice system of like collecting evidence, discovery. Like they're
Well,
not
they
gonna go
are
through
actually.
that.
It sounds like
Like,
it in the preview. They're all like putting the case up, and like Misty looks like in the trailer, she's representing him as his lawyer, and she's like, "I'm sticking myself out for you, so don't fuck me over," is what she says. And I'm
oh,
like, okay, so they are doing like they literally have it all set up. They have a fucking like gavel and shit. Like they're doing a full on trial, which I love.
expedited.
Yeah, expedited trial and no really evidence to it's just all circumstantial at best right now. And it's all
Yeah.
that's all that's gonna be. I mean, it's not like they have fucking DNA kits or whatever the hell they can do to prove, unless somebody else says, I did it. I don't think it looks good for Ben, unfortunately, because I really feel for him and I was hoping I mean, after our last episode, I was saying I do feel like Ben, it makes sense to be the one who survives and would be blackmailing them at any point because who else would blackmail them? They all did this shit together. So unless one of them does something way worse than the other ones, I feel like it had to be Ben that's like alive still somehow and blackmailing them. But like, I don't know. The idea of next episode is trial happening already. I'm not thinking it looks like it's good for Ben. What about you?
Well, here's the crazy twist ending that will never happen. But what if the show ended and the big reveal was that the Antler Queen at the from the first episode was actually Ben?
People have said that as a theory already. And I'm like, I mean, that would be the ultimate twist is that he goes full antler queen and he's even crazier than the rest of them. I'd be here for that. If, as long as if we get more Ben, that's all I want. As much as I was like, I don't care about Coach Ben in the first season, and I was like, how is he still alive last season? I really came to appreciate him as a character, and I really want him and Paul to be together. And I know it's extremely unlikely every episode that occurs, but I'm still rooting for my guy until they fucking rip him limb for limb or eat him alive because I feel like he's gonna go terribly if he goes next episode. I'm holding out hope.
Yeah. If they kill Ben, I just hope that he gets an arc where he becomes a really good character and his death like I'm like, oh, he didn't deserve to die. Because like I was with you for most of the first two seasons where I'm just like, who is this one-legged guy that's just
Yeah. How
somehow
is he
getting
still alive?
around?
Yeah.
And this could be a really good arc for him of just like, yeah, just having moments and speeches and stuff of just being like, this is all fucked. And
Literally though, and he's also like, I mean, even in this the end of this episode, he saved 3 of them from fucking
yeah,
poisoning in the caves. So it's like he really even outdid himself as another selfless thing, even though he knew I should let them fucking die because they're just gonna kill me. He
yeah.
saved them. And I was like, just they're just adding to it, man. They're making because it makes sense that like he didn't actually burn down their cabin in the first place. Why would he resort to murdering them if he was disappointed with them for murdering? Like I just feel
Hmm.
that goes against his thing unless maybe he really did do it. I don't know, but I feel that he's been extremely like the only person who's like we can relatively say is a good person still in the young cast in the
Yeah.
show in the universe like from what he's done. So I feel that next episode we'll get a great performance from him and if they kill him I'm going to be so fucking sad, but I hope he lasts longer cuz I love him.
Yeah. Well, and we're gonna hold off on the cave part because that's
Yeah, that's the ending.
if we start here, we're gonna forget everything else that happened in the episode. But I
But we
was
just had to get that
surprised.
out about Ben.
Yeah, I was surprised that Mari actually had a deep moment. Mari for 3 seasons has just been a little bitch
Yeah,
and
that was actually
deserved to get
shocking.
slapped by everyone on the team. But then she has this one little scene here where she talks about like being in the room when her cousin dies of brain cancer. And I was just like, wow, Mari, having some death. And then when the coach is like, why did you tell me that? I was like, yeah, where did that come from? Like,
Like, where the fuck did that come from, Mari? Did you steal that from someone else? Did you memorize this monologue from a movie? I don't know. But I was also surprised by that. And then I liked her thing about I think there's just two realities of like
yeah,
the really bad and the really good, and they're both real. And I was just like, damn. Like, I don't think that's literally what's going on with them, that they're in two different realities or whatever.
yeah,
But it's like the bad stuff almost feels like it's another reality because it's so different from
yeah,
what you're normally dealing with. But even if like I mean, honestly, they're just in this situation where they can really take a step back and realize, like, what the fuck is this? This is real. Like, honestly, what is real? It's crazy. If you take it back, like, step back right now and even look at like society and shit, you're like, what the fuck's going on? But we're just always so busy running around doing shit, just fucking working in the machine. So it's like for them, they're having this really interesting thing of like, yeah, they're almost in this whole other reality, just somewhere totally different with all this horrible shit going on, while other people are just going through like totally mundane, normal days. So it
yeah.
feels it's very similar to her story of like watching that show and then the cousin died and then she finished the show still. So it's like
Yeah.
just fucked. Like kind of how can these both be happening at the same time?
Yeah, when she was talking about that, my head went to was it season 2 when Coach was having those like visions of
His vision quest
life.
with Paul, yeah.
Yeah, where like he didn't crash and he like saw his
Stayed.
life
Yeah.
if he had stayed or whatever. It made me think of that. I'm like, we've only seen this with Coach. But like this lines up with that whole idea of like there's the two things can are happening at the same time. It's just which one is are you experiencing sort of thing.
Yeah, it's like I feel like season two, he was really trying to convince himself that he was living the other life. And I think there's just too many harsh realities he's had to deal with this season, plus whatever the poisoning of, methane or gas or whatever the fuck toxins they've been breathing in, probably the whole time they've been out there, but especially bad in the caves, I would imagine.
Mm,
Um, so it's like, yeah, the fact that, I mean, honestly, I'm glad for him. He feels like he's definitely come past that, but he's also still probably fucked up in the head from breathing that shit in there. And that's what I was wondering is like, after seeing the episode, I was like, is Mari affected by that at all? Or no, it doesn't seem like she really is. They all don't get really affected by it until the very end, which we'll talk about in a minute. But
yeah.
yeah, what a surprise. Did not have that on my bingo card, which I still haven't filled out for this season, but it would not have included Mari being emotionally deep in any way.
Yeah, I'm like,
I assume there's
Mari,
no
you're a good
depth.
actress.
But also, like, I kind of feel like it goes out the window. Like, who knows if that was, I mean, maybe that was a genuine moment, but like within 5 minutes after macing him, it's like, or not 5 minutes, but whatever. When he lets her go, he's like, he does that whole thing that they do in every movie, as Nolan pointed out. We were watching, we are like, oh, am I going to kill you or am I going to let you go free? I'm going to cut the ropes. And like, you know what I mean? And I'm
Yeah.
like, we all know he's not going to just fucking kill Mari all of a sudden. So, like, let's just go. And of course, he cuts the ropes. And then her first response is to trip him and then fucking kick out his crutches. And I was like, all right, bitch, everything I just said, I take back. That was a
that,
real bullshit move.
that escalated quickly.
I was like, wow, really? That was how quick you fucking repay him. Okay, great. Like he even was gonna let her go after the bear mace. Like if anything, I was like, I would have fucking kept her there. Although she's annoying as hell, so who knows? But then it's like she just everything she does for the rest of the episode honestly really just undermines all of the development that that scene would have given her,
It's
which is
true.
pretty on brand for Mari, honestly.
She does rat him out pretty quickly.
Immediately. She didn't think about her story at all because it's like I could have said I tripped over a tree root or something like that, but instead I fell into like a 9 foot hole. It's like, okay, well, you obviously didn't get out by yourself. What were you? Like, how did you get out? And it's like, ooh, yeah, I guess I should have maybe focused. I feel like she was focused on the zinger that she gave to Shauna. Like the whole walk back was like, I'm totally gonna get Shauna. When Shauna's like, how'd you get home? Or like, where did you go? And she's like, oh, I walked back to civilization to fuck your dad. Like I was like, I'm sure she was coming up with that shit on the way and not like,
Yeah.
what am I gonna tell them about instead of coach? and then happens to do that because she doesn't want to be in trouble. And I kind of get it, but I'm also like, bitch, you just tripped a cripple and fucking escaped his cave. Now you're gonna send the mob after him. She deserves to be next. And they
Yeah.
don't. Every week, it's just proving to me that Shauna might be the most sane one by saying, "Why the fuck didn't we eat that bitch first?" I agree.
Yeah.
Mari should have been a goner a long time ago.
Oh, I feel like this episode is like broken up into pairs up until like the last 15 minutes. Like we get the coach and Mari, we get Callie and Lottie, and we
Which
get
is just dangerous, bad shit. I don't know. Lottie's just I'm out on Lottie 100% on both timelines. I don't know if we want to
yeah.
talk about Lottie and Callie, but you're right about the pairings. It's like Van and Ty still paired together, and then I like kind of I didn't know if Shauna was going to be paired with Callie and Lottie, but Misty and Shauna was an unexpected pairing.
Let's talk about Misty and Shauna because
Yeah,
I mean we talked about how much we loved Misty taking up the role of the cool whiskey bitch
yeah.
of Natalie. And this episode, she just swings the other direction, and I loved clingy Misty so much. Like her just clinging on to Shauna and be like, "Want to hang out? Let's hang out."
She's
It's
like, I
like
got really boring things to do. I don't care. I'm great at that. Let's go. And then the foot doctors are sexy, but I'll wait in the waiting room if you don't want me to watch. It's like, what the fuck? It's honestly great because Misty's just so totally like she's like Michael Scott with like zero self-awareness. Like it's
yeah,
very hard to tell that like only a few people would have this level of like they just have no idea how they are because it's like the way that she's reacting to Walter and kicked him out is exactly the kind of shit that she's now doing to Shauna and like not seeing that it's exactly why she was like, you know what I mean? It's just
yeah.
funny. She has no idea that that's like literally what she does. So yeah, this scene was great. Like all of the brunch thing with the scones, and then her being like, "Well, so your daughter, apple tree, I'm afraid, like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, as we all know." 'Cause she's like, she's quite the little schemer. Little does Misty even know, citizen detective, it got by her that she was even drugged.
hmm
I would have thought maybe I was because how the fuck did she pass out? I was surprised that she hadn't already come up with that.
Yeah, and she tries to play it off like she did know everything that was going on, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I shut down all the conversations." Like, no,
No, they knocked your bitch ass out, and then they continued it without you,
but
which
man,
was hilarious. But yeah,
the scene of them in the car and the brakes not working and them driving into the park all to Limp Biscuit was just like the
the
funniest
best.
thing I've seen
The
in so long.
It was so goddamn funny because of like also just like Misty being like when she's like Shauna break and she's like slow down, she's like I literally can't, I'm trying, and it's not working. She goes, well, try harder because we're gonna miss the turn. It's not like we're gonna crash, it's like we're gonna miss the turn. And
She's
then
like, "Get
like
on the grassy knoll."
and then like going straight at the playground. That family, nobody ran over to them. They're like, "What the fuck are you doing?" After they pulled over, and then finally remembered that they have a knee break, which was crazy. Um, and honestly, like I that was one thing I wanted to ask you about, which was a hilarious scene. But like Shauna, of course, I guess it kind of makes sense why she would think Misty. Obviously, we all know Misty does that kind of shit.
Yeah,
But I really don't think this is Misty because she was in the car too. And what
yeah,
purpose does it serve except for making Shauna suspicious? So I personally think it's either, the stalker, aka Melissa, I think, of whoever's watching Shauna and leaving the phone in the
hmm
bathroom. But also it could be Walter, because it really does get the result that he was driving for, but which is to wake Misty up and make her realize that really Shauna is not a good friend for her. That none
yeah.
of them are good friends to her, but Shauna especially. She's a real bitch. She gets so mad at Misty all the time when really it's like, Shauna, you're just as fucking crazy, if not crazier.
I was gonna ask you the same question. Like, who tampered with her
Yeah.
car?
So I'm curious what your opinion is, because I think we could both agree right now. Let's say it's not Misty, right? I don't think it's
Yeah,
Misty.
I mean,
Okay.
Misty does a lot of crazy things, but
Not to endanger herself,
and I
right?
also don't think it's Walter
Because
because
that would endanger Misty.
yeah, Walter has covered Misty and people adjacent to Misty
Why
since
would he
he's
try
been
to
on the
kill them?
show. Yeah,
Agreed.
like he's had their back. So yeah, it'd be weird if all of a sudden.
He
he
tried to kill
was
her.
trying to prove his point,
I mean, maybe because she kicked him out. That's the only thing. But like, honestly, still feels like quite a ways to jump to like, okay, let me pull the brakes and see what happens. But maybe he just did that because he knew that Shauna would suspect Misty and that it would cause a fight and then give him the result. I mean, he was right. So that's the only thing that makes me think it could be Walter. But I agree with you. I think Walter really does care about Misty. I don't think he's up to no good with her. I know a lot of
yeah.
people are suspicious. Maybe it's just because I love Elijah Wood, but I just really think he's just a fucking freak, just like Misty. And he really does love her. And he's making a solid point, honestly, about them because they,
Yeah.
much as Misty's crazy, they are way too mean to her. I know, I don't think they know about the black box yet, so maybe I just feel like it's still a little unjustified, but I think it definitely has to be Melissa. So I'm curious, are you in that
Y-
agreement as well?
Yeah. And that's the only one that makes sense is it has to
Right?
be the stalker, you
Yeah.
know. And
And
we
it's
still don't know what was on the tape that Callie
taken forever
took.
to listen to that garbage or watch it. Some people have said it's some old type of videotape. I don't know. I feel like it's got to be an audio tape, but some people are saying that kind of thing on like records video too. I don't fucking know.
I feel like there were cameras in the 90s that had a special tape that like you would record the footage on before like digital. So maybe
Yeah,
it's that, but
maybe. I have no
where
idea.
if it is like where is she getting the equipment to watch that? I feel like an audio tape is a lot easier, a lot more accessible to like get equipment to listen to something like that than getting a
Yeah.
projector and that whole thing.
And plus, like, so I feel like let's talk about the stalker because I think like this is the first episode where like I really think like I guess the only real scene that would have the stalkers like adjacent or whatever referenced is this scene with Misty and Shauna and the brake's not working. Not compared to the last episodes where we see like the blonde hair and like leaving something or like, in the bathroom. So I think like just guessing. I mean, the way that they're fucking really kind of telling us that it's Melissa feels like it's so obvious that like there's no way that they're just fucking with us because that would be like quite the scheme because they're like editing their
Yeah.
scenes together. The young in the teen timeline in the woods in this episode, Misty or sorry, Shauna literally says to Melissa like stalk much like
Yeah.
oh you're not going to turn out to be a boring are you? And I feel like that really just explains exactly who the stalker is and they always cut it with those scenes together. I feel like it's obviously going to be her, right? I don't know.
Yeah,
Do
that's
you
what it feels
think?
like. Except the whole like cutting the brakes thing,
Yeah.
that threw me for a loop because yeah, like the stalker initially, like I didn't know if the stalker was like trying to hurt Shauna or trying to get in contact with Shauna.
Yeah.
Like, because we don't know what was on the tape. The tape could have been like blackmail, or it could have been some sort of like, hey, I'm trying to contact you anyway, anyhow, or like leaving the phone sort of thing. But this is like malicious. This is like I'm gonna cut your brakes and I'm gonna do it while you're eating a scone.
I
And
mean, while she was with Misty though, and maybe it's like I mean, maybe the stalker's not maybe they're just focusing on Shauna, but like maybe they really are trying to like sow some like fucking anger or like dissent within the Yellow Jackets that survived so that they all turn on each other. Because if they're individuals, they're harder to deal like way easier to deal with than like a form, when they're all strong together.
the other person that it could be, this is a long, long, long shot. So this is not
Is it
my
longer
official
shot
theory.
than Coach Ben still being alive? Because that's still my
Yes,
other
longer
side up.
shot.
Okay, I'm interested now.
Uh, it could be Jeff because Jeff seems to be at his wits end with Shauna and her meltdowns. Me personally, I love her meltdowns,
Is he
but
wearing the wig and he's dropping these things off, or is this someone else he's hired to
I
drop
mean, I
that
don't know
stuff
if
off?
he. I don't. I'm saying Jeff could be the one who cut the brakes because he's like, you
Oh,
know what,
okay.
honey, you
Okay.
ruined this really important thing for me because my furniture is a fuck fest.
Okay.
The credenzas are a
I
fuck
love
fest.
this. Jeff's gone off the deep end finally. I
Yeah.
could get with this, honestly. I mean, the
Like you
fact that she
cheated on
says
me with a hot guy in season
literally,
one.
yeah, everything is just pushing him more and more. And then also, like, the fact that she was like having to go buy a gift basket for these fuckers that she pissed off the other night at dinner as if that was gonna save anything was like
Yeah.
pretty funny to me. That like I was like, I'm pretty sure that's totally fucked. Like there's no way you're coming back from that. But like
Yeah.
why would you want to? Those guys were dickheads, right? So I don't know. I feel like there's no way that they're gonna be able to do anything about that. But sure, whatever the gift basket, I guess they can try. But that was funny to me that that was even a thing.
Ugh. All right, let's talk about Ty and Van, because
Yeah.
Van is having some miraculous medical breaks
Mm-hmm.
recently,
Yep.
and
Which I kind of
Ty,
expected after the death of the waiter being so like featured in the first two episodes, which I was like, why the fuck do we care about this guy? And like the photo of him was like just a photo of him at work because it's like, oh, they
yeah.
he's never done anything else but work his whole life and like all this shit. I was just like,
Hey,
this
his
is so
obituary
funny.
said he was really into woodworking,
Yeah.
apparently in his waiter uniform.
And he had a family and stuff. It's like, oh boy, like they're really laying it on thick. So I was just like, this has to like do with like the sacrifice of like the wilderness choosing. But I'm like, that's pretty extreme. Honestly, that waiter had to come and chasing these two bitches for nothing. I mean, just pay the $100. It's cheaper than fucking dying, man. Like I just think he was way too much like trying to chase them down. But I feel like I'm interested. I'm so intrigued by how their story kind of keeps going because it sounds like, at least for me, what I'm seeing is Dark Tie's basically 100% in control at this point,
That's what it feels like.
right? Like
It's
there's
like Dark
maybe
Ty's making moves.
like once she hears that Van's recovering, I think she switches and it's like, great, this is working. Okay, now we have to go do more. And then also being like, come here, pray with me, like believe in it. And it's like, this is not anything we've seen from either Taissa, like the young version or the adult one, and only from Dark Ty, who seems to have some weird connection with shit and does the, creepy
Yeah.
things that she's praying to. So I feel like she's got to be the one running the ship now, most of the season, maybe even. I'm curious, or maybe they're like merging into one combined unit or person. I guess. Uh, I don't know. It does feel like Dark Ty, at least in like in the younger timeline, she only comes out at night, really, maybe occasionally outside of that, but like most of the time as an adult, like since last season, she's been coming out during the day and taking over for whole periods of time for
Yeah.
nights and days and like driving places without her knowing. So like it feels like she's just bubbling to the surface where it's like either she's gonna take over almost completely or like maybe both personalities were merged into something. I don't know what that would look like though.
Yeah, I don't know. I was gonna ask you, were you surprised that she actually told Van about the waiter? I thought when Van said like my cancer is seemingly going into remission, I thought she was not gonna tell her about the waiter. Like, oh, let's stay focused on the positive things, like not that this
Yeah.
guy we stole from died.
I feel like that was regular time, maybe, like still telling her that. And then as soon as she got that out, it was like Dark Tide comes in.
Yeah.
But this is actually a good thing now. It was worth it. I think his sacrifice. And then it's because it's like a switch changes. And she's like,
Yeah.
this is good. Let's pray to it again. And you're like, what the fuck? I actually really enjoyed the whole. I was very surprised. I don't know about you, with the whole Man with No Eyes being in that commercial that they were watching on that old show was like that just felt like the realest thing. It really hit home for me because I've had this exact same thing happen. I'm sure a lot of us have, where it's like you find out something that might have haunted you your whole life and maybe not as like visions, but like I definitely found that out. Or I had this image of like a fully grown woman in a giant spider web, like trapped. And it was like something I'd seen on the screen as a kid and didn't know what it was from for years, but it haunted me. So I was so scared of it as a kid. And I finally found out a few years ago that that's fucking from Gremlins too. So it's like, wow, really? That's what the scary shit was from? Like, it's funny how that does happen to us in life, where, like, as a kid, sometimes the things that might be like, they seem like they're for kids, even are like terrifying and
Yeah.
literally can fuck you up for life. And so the fact of like her realizing, like, oh my God, I must have seen this as a kid. And then my grandma said the thing about the guy with no eyes. And like, of course, this is what her brain would associate with that. So it was like, okay, so he's not a supernatural being. That's what I was taking from it.
Yeah, kinda.
Like it was
It's
just like,
funny.
oh shit, that's where that. I mean, maybe it is a supernatural being she projects that image onto, but like that
Yeah.
image coming from something like that, I just felt like it was so realistic. Happened to
Well,
me. I've heard of it happening to others, so.
well, and then Van says that she remembers that got that commercial from when she was a kid, and then that figure is in the shared hallucination at the end. So it's like they probably all saw that as a kid.
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't know. It's funny. I feel like that for our generation would be. Do you remember the old Quizno subs ads with the weird like hamster creature thing?
Yes. Yes, I
Thing's
do.
a nightmare.
That is a
That would be
total
our.
nightmare.
That would be the advertisement that haunts our dreams.
Dude, from the 90s, outside of this Gremlins thing that I saw that really, there's a scene where a gremlin like drinks some insect juice and becomes like half gremlin, half spider. And so he has all these webs and this chick gets trapped in it. But like, it's not scary, but it is well lit. Like, it's creepily lit. So it does, I feel like as a kid, you're like, yeah, terrifying. But like, it's funny how that shit happens. I do feel like the 90s was a different time for commercials. Like, nowadays, I don't think they're as creepy. Like, it reminded me of a lot of like I saw the TV glow and like the old creepiness of that old
Yeah.
show and stuff, like when they're watching at different points and like sometimes the stuff that you're like, this was a fucking show for kids. Like even like Courage the Cowardly Dog. It's like
Oh
fucked
yeah.
up shit. And I watch that every Saturday morning. Like, no wonder I'm fucking terrified or like, into horror now, like crazy. I can't get out of it. I just and like every commercial or even movie, I feel like, and cartoon had quicksand in it back then. I thought I was going to deal with that every day of my life growing up because it was everywhere. So it's like I have these irrational weird fears or things that I'm like like associate with because it's like I'm never really going to deal. It's not a real problem, but it's just something that was terrifying and I don't know why I was allowed to see this as a child. I'm not saying that kids can't handle some stuff, but like for some reason for me, and other kids, I do feel like it's crazy how things like that can really stick with you
Yeah.
adulthood, and I love the fact that that was our explanation for the no-eyed man or whatever, man with no eyes. I'm curious, like, were you happy about that or disappointed? Because just for the personal reference, I think is one reason I loved it. But I'm curious, like, did you feel? Because maybe people would be disappointed if they were hoping for like more of a supernatural kind of explanation.
No, I'm happy with it because I personally don't want this to go in the direction of supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, it'd be
and
too like
so
lost.
yeah, and so like the idea of like seeing something as a kid that's not supposed to be horrifying actually being really scary to you, and then that thing being projected
And
through
like
trauma and
warped
stuff
into this other
later in
thing.
your life.
Yeah,
I like the idea of that
it's way more
because then it's
interesting.
like, oh, I don't need an origin story. Like this isn't a character. Like, it's not like the cabin daddy. Like,
Exactly.
it's like,
If
oh,
he
this
even
is a
is.
projection of something that like we saw long ago and we don't totally understand.
I
And
kind of
I
feel like
like that.
I love that you explain it that way because I feel like that's like how it feels like a lot of this stuff is going to be turning out, where it's like we might have had all these crazy ideas from things that like maybe looked really supernatural. Like, I mean, just even rewatching season two and the episode where they eat, where Jackie becomes snacky and like the wind like almost looks supernatural with how it like comes in and like shakes the tree to make the snow fall, but like again, that is like just wind doing that. So it's like it's not 100% proof, but people will be like, it feels like it, right? I
Yeah.
love the idea that they still hint at the supernatural and kind of go there, but they don't fully go there. It seems more when they go in a definitive direction, it's more grounded and like in real life,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm very happy by because I think that's important. If they go too mystical and shit, it's like I don't need more questions, I need more answers. And I like the grounded approaches because I feel like a grounded answer of something in reality actually raises more interesting thoughts and questions about
Yeah.
their mental state and different things like that they're grappling with. And like I think it's more interesting in the adult timeline for Van and Taissa to be like 100% not dealing with real supernatural shit that's pointing them to the old broken down restaurant and then there's a wolf eating or a fox eating a rabbit or whatever the fuck it was. I'm like, it's like it's like they're putting these ideas it's into their heads based on like the associations that they have from
Yeah.
their fucked up time out there. So they're really projecting it. Like I think that the freak accident of the waiter was totally just that. Like it was a freak accident.
Yeah.
He got
It's the
stressed
whole
out.
like, it's like they are doing correlation equals causation. They're like,
Yep.
because this thing happened and because we know these other things happen, they have to be connected.
It's very much like Lottie.
Yeah.
And it's
It's
terrifying that they're doing
fate.
that because I'm
It's,
like,
yeah.
yeah. And I'm like, it's dangerous, is what it is. Because then if you do that, it's a very slippery slope, I feel. It's like once you start doing that, you can connect almost anything. And it's just fucked up, like the way that you're getting there, which is really, I don't know about you, about it, but I feel maybe a great transition to Lottie. But before we do, I did want to tell you that if you are brave enough, you may call the phone number to the fucking closed down restaurant with the no-eyed man and the advertisement that they post. It's like in the in the episode. They posted a clip of it online and said like, I definitely wouldn't recommend doing this if you're planning on sleeping tonight. So this
So,
morning I
so you
called.
called them for sure.
Yeah, I definitely called them this morning. People were like, I read online that people were like, you can call. There's like a fucking like there's also like beeps and shit, and people were like, it's literally Morse code. And I was like, oh my God, like they've already dissected all of it. So I was like, but half the people were like, I heard all the Morse code, but like so there's two different voices speaking the whole time. So one of them's like a normal guy who's like, thanks for like calling. We're closed down or like whatever, kind of going through like your basic whatever marketing shit on a phone call. And then the other voice is like talking about like life and death and blood and just too much and all this kind of almost like the two realities kind of thing where they're talking over each other or like in between and just two different voices. And then there's this beeping and shit, creepy noises. And the Morse code, apparently, the message is the screams are not what they seem, which is incredible for a lot of reasons. But number one reason being Twin Peaks. That's a huge reference to Twin Peaks because I know you've just started that show, but
Hmm.
eventually there's like a supernatural moment where someone speaking with someone is told the owls are not what they seem. And it's
Mm.
because the evil spirits can actually like use the owls or can possess and travel through, like view things through the owls, shit like that. So the owls are kind of evil, is basically what it's saying. But I think it's interesting in this context of like the screams are not what they seem. I do think that that could be like it sounds like fucking crazy ass nightmare supernatural entities, but I don't think that's really what the screams are coming from, which we'll talk about when we get to like kind of later in the episode. But
Yeah. We got one more thing to talk about real quick, and then we'll get to the last 15 minutes.
yeah,
Um, really, it's Lottie and Callie.
yeah, that's exactly what we
Super
need.
sus, but I was really surprised when Callie was wearing the necklace.
Dude, that was some diabolical fucking shit from Lottie. Like that was, I mean, I knew that bitch was crazy from the moment that like she's like, I announced myself instead of fucking spying. I'm such a good house guest. And then it's like Shauna being actually nice and being like, let's get lunch anywhere you want. We'll fucking like catch up and really heal, whatever. And I was like, wow, Shauna. And Lottie being like, I'm busy all day. Sorry, I
I'm
gotta go.
booked.
And I was like, are you like, I hated her instantly. I was like, oh, this bitch. I knew it was a problem to let her in from day one, but like,
Yeah.
this just really proved it. After last episode was still kind of fun because the Misty and the sleepover and shit. But this was like, damn, Lottie's really fucking off the deep end with giving Callie that necklace, and Callie just totally blissfully unaware, like a sacrificial lamb on a pillow, just being led to the slaughter and totally unaware of what's happening. You know what I mean? Like I
Well,
was
I was
worried
like,
for Callie.
I was just thinking, I was like, Lottie has had the necklace this whole time.
That's fucked up on its own because yeah, like I
Like,
mean,
what
as
else
far
does she
as
have?
that's what I'm saying. I mean, obviously this bitch is off her rocker, but like I do feel like it's interesting that she's literally treating Callie like doing her fucking cult shit and it's working because even if you are smart enough to like kind of even call out like is that just one of your cult games? Like the fucking shit that she's doing is still working. Like
Yeah.
she gives her like she criticizes her first with like, do you like, oh, what about this? And she's like,
It's like,
no.
no.
And I was like, ooh. And then she's like, yeah, you're right. It's kind of basic. And then she like kind of intrigues her with like asking about her and then praises her. Like, I think you're the only kind of person who could answer that question
Yeah.
if you really wanted to. And then ends it by like them doing something dangerous together, stealing clothes, of course, which is actually a great callback to season one when Lottie says that she has thousands of dollars in TJ bucks because she goes there and steals shit and then returns it, and then she never uses the bucks. And I was like, that's hilarious that she still is like that. Also, agreed. It's like 100% just shows how sketchy this bitch is. But really, all of that is still like, okay, she's colting her. Obviously, I was nervous. But then fucking Shauna's face was, I mean, honestly, Melanie Linsky, give her her damn Emmy now. Her whole thing with like literally just seeing that necklace. And when you realize that, you're like, oh my God, like, where the fuck did you get that?
Yeah.
And when Lottie said, I gave it to her, I was like, oh, this bitch really is insane. Like,
Yeah.
do you not remember Shauna beating your ass almost to death in season two? Because I do. And I feel like she should have. Like, that was pretty fucking crazy and bold of her. What did you
Well,
like? How did you
and then
feel?
and then Lottie saying that the necklace doesn't mean what you think it means.
Great.
I was
Oh,
like,
okay, cool. I feel better now.
it's like what? So I think we all agree the necklace means that you're the one that's getting hunted.
But I think yeah, so I think she still means that, but she means that like she views it in a positive way. Like you get to give
Like you're chosen.
you're the chosen one to give back to like what
Yeah.
it wants to help all of us versus like Shauna being like, no, you're the one that's gonna get killed and die. Because that is like how most of them, I feel like when you're the hunted, at least, that's definitely how you feel. So that's kind of what I was thinking, but I was curious, like maybe this bitch has some other crazy shit she thinks because I mean, even in the young timeline, I'm like, oh, I don't trust her with Aquila and her. I'm
Yeah.
proud of Aquila for standing up to this crazy fucker, but like, Jesus, she just pisses me off. And like, this was just, yeah, over the top. The necklace was just fucked. That was beyond fucked.
You
Like, I was
crossed a
surprised.
line.
I'm surprised Shauna didn't fucking murder her, but like her screaming, like, get the fuck out of my house and like ripping the necklace off. I was like, all right, if this doesn't get her an Emmy, I just don't know what will do it because Melanie Linsky deserves it. This was I felt like that was the first time fully that we've seen like young Shauna, like especially this season, the angry young Shauna coming out in adult Shauna.
Yeah.
Like it matched the same exact. I love when because that's the whole thing is these characters are so different at
Yeah.
different points that they're like, how do we meet in the middle eventually and figure out where that change happens? And I love seeing her coming back to that 'cause she's really been suppressing it for a long time. You see it kind of under the surface, but like the fact that it finally came out at Lottie of all people was just very satisfying. And then
Yeah.
throwing
Because
all the shit off the table. Ugh, excellent.
adult Shauna, like all of her moments, they're not like unhinged lashing out. They're like she's the coolest person in the world. Like
Yeah,
it's her like doing really cool like action hero monologues and stuff. This was just primal. It was yeah, it was
so
very
primal.
young Shauna, as you said.
They really, yeah, I was like, I love that moment, and I'm sure it was just super good. But I'm like, ooh, that is very also scary for like where that's gonna lead to because I do feel like unless she really explains the whole thing of the necklace, which is tough, I admit, I feel like she's gonna have to explain something to Callie in order to keep Callie on her side because I think this might just push Callie right into Lottie's arms, and then Lottie's just gonna kill her. I'm assuming because for some reason she's obsessed with Shauna's children. Would have never let her in the house in the first place.
Well, what we need to know is how much has Lottie told Callie already?
Mm-hmm.
Because Misty was passed out, and then they go to the mall together and talk, and then they're cooking together and having a great time. And Shauna's like, "What the fuck is this?" So it's
Mm-hmm.
like Lottie had to have spilled some beans.
Maybe, but she didn't spill enough because I don't think Callie would be happy about wearing that necklace if she really knew what it meant. I don't think
Yeah,
that she knows anything about the hunting. But I did think it was interesting in this scene that the song that plays as they like as we come into the kitchen with Shauna is the song from Lost that Desmond is playing on repeat in the hatch
yeah.
every day as he's waiting to press the button. And I'm like, that's just like I was like, is that, I know that's on purpose, but like, I have no idea what that means. Obviously, we're not going to have a hatch and people and shit. Like, let's not go down that road. We know it
We
doesn't
did
end
have a
well.
hatch
We
last
did have,
episode.
okay, technically a hatch, but I think it was more of just like a fucking, like it was buried, something buried, a big
Yeah,
trunk or case, whatever. But if it was like a hatch to like an underground science lab, I'd be out. I'd be like, no, no, no. We know this doesn't end well. Okay, we all saw Lost, right? And if we
Yeah.
didn't, please fucking somebody watch it first before we go down this road. But yeah, like I feel like that was just honestly, she's already gone. But then I feel like that was just craziness. I think that moment, and then to transition from there to the last 15 minutes was like,
Let's do
I
it.
mean, just a banger of an episode, honestly,
Yeah.
and a banger way to go out. So I'm like, oh shit.
Well, it's funny. Like, I was thinking when we learned the origins of the no-eyed man or man with no eyes or whatever people call him, I was like, okay, so this is this is an answer to something. We don't get those very often. And
Hmm.
then we just talked about it last episode. The show feels like you learn one thing and then you gain two more questions. The last 15 minutes give us like five questions. So
They
really,
do, but they kind of like, I don't know, just maybe because I've rewatched this multiple times, because I was also like, so this is supernatural, right? But then after rewatching, I'm like, well, no, but Ben mentions the gas. People are pretty extensive on Reddit. I'll tell you this. You should really
yeah.
go on there and check out some shit because people are like, just based off of like Google and things like that, they talk about how the toxic gas could have been affecting them also like the whole time that they've been there,
I've
not
heard
just while
that
they're in the cave
theory.
because it's connected to like a mine.
Hmm.
And because even when they go into the cave, they see all that silver shit all over, which means it looks like a fucking mine or like where you
Yeah.
would be mining from. Apparently, they were doing that in that area. The sounds also, I sent you the link before this episode. If you haven't looked it up, personally, if you're a listener and you don't know what I'm talking about, check out the sounds that come from fracking because that sounds almost identical, I think, to what they're hearing in
The
the woods
screeching
and
and
in the
yeah.
cave that Ben is like, do you hear that? What the fuck? It sounds like, I mean, it literally sounds supernatural, but like, I listened to this fucking clip and I'm just like, okay, so that actually does sound like fracking though. Like,
Yeah.
so I do feel like there is a lot of supernatural kind of mystery elements, but very much like I still feel it backs up this whole like slowly like the toxic air and like the mines and like mercury poisoning, shit like that. I mean, all the animals that they're eating would have it if they're living in the area, like the ground, like it would be coming up from the water, like literally everything. So I do think it supports this whole idea of because they've had these visions and shit for a long time and weird things happening. So I do feel like it could be the explanation, and it's possibly why like their lights all go out or like why this shit gets really intense when they have their flames near the gas in the caves, and like
Yeah.
that's why Van and Aquila and Shauna have those really strong visions, I would say. Their
Yeah.
little vision quest shit felt extremely Twin Peaks to me. Even the music in some of it was very Twin Peaks, and the talking llama with Aquila. I loved all of the visual imagery and like all of the shit that was happening. I think it's like there's so much on purpose in there for people to digest. But I also think it's like just everybody's mind doing that shit. I don't think there's some supernatural thing talking to them
Yeah.
through this. But I don't know. That's just what I was looking up online. And it does feel like it could be some biological thing due to the area that we're in or that they are located in. And so I'm curious, like, what your thoughts are from all these hallucinations. Because I feel like, yeah, we could really dive deep into every single one, but I almost don't feel like they're almost worth it because I feel like there's just all this interesting stuff thrown in there. There's a lot of sad and kind of like intriguing things, but I don't know what any of it will actually mean.
Yeah, like I when they start having the visions and like I mean, I thought it was a gas. I picked up that there was a gas thing as soon as the fire started like kind of puckering. I was like,
Yeah,
that's what fire does when it's igniting a gas. And so
you're so
then when they
smart.
started
I was like, oh, it's a ghost or something. Fuck. And then I realized later, oh wait, no, that's actually that's like scientifically known. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. That's good to
But
know.
yeah, then they start having their visions. And the thing that stood out to me, and it kind of goes back to the whole thing with the man with no eyes and like that being something connected to your psyche. All of their visions were they felt like they were tied to kind of the mental state of the person. You
Yeah,
know, like Aquila. Also, I think Aquila is this season's Crystal. She's
yeah.
definitely dying. Like her character. this is the first season that we've actually seen this character, right?
No, she's been around since
She's been
season
in the
one.
past. Oh,
So
okay.
season two, remember she helped Misty deliver the baby and she had that little mouse pet that was like turned out to be like
Oh
fucking dead.
yeah.
That was
Oh
her. And
yeah.
then season one, it was the same character but a different actress, and she got
Yeah.
cast on a new show, and that's why they recast her with this actress in season two. So she has
Okay.
been around since the beginning. Um, but yeah, and I think she was like one of the JV people who was on the team now.
Oh,
And
okay.
so she has been an existing character, but really like last season kind of gave her a bit more, and then this season even more so because like the fact that she was one of the three that got their own vision, I thought was
Mm-hmm.
very interesting. And then the talking llama in hers was great, and like
Yeah.
all the animals, and I was like, oh, this is cute. I was worried for her though because the beginning of her vision is like her eating a bunch of berries, and I know that they're like I'm saying, like all this stuff is kind of pushing me towards the non-supernatural reasoning for things. I also am like Jackie drank hot chocolate when she died in her dream, and I feel like
Mari.
Lottie, or what?
Mari drank hot chocolate last episode.
Yeah, she did, but that wasn't a dream. So, but also still not a
Oh.
good sign, I guess, because if we're associating hot chocolate with death, but there was something else where someone was given something, and then in Lottie's like near death experience when she had the hunting contest with Nat last season, she was like at the mall or whatever with all of them, and they
Oh
had
yeah.
ordered her food, and then Laura Lee was like, "Don't eat, you need to go back before you die" or something. And so I was like, interesting. So now everyone's kind of really latched onto that idea. And I think it's like an old like thing that people believed for long, like olden times. Or maybe they still do. But like if you eat in a dream, it's like you're accepting the gift of the underworld and now you die. So
Yeah,
I
interesting.
was a little bit concerned for that, but I'm also like, if I'm leaning towards this realistic explanation, I don't necessarily know that that means Akila's next, but Lottie's got her eyes on her in the teen timeline. So I do feel like her days are numbered. She might be
Yeah.
next.
And then we get Shauna
Oh,
out in
how
the lake.
depressing. How
So
sad was
sad.
that? Seeing her son and not being able to move towards him. I was like, that was the first time we've seen her smile, the young teenager Shauna, in a
Oh
very
yeah,
long
good
time.
call.
When she smiled when she saw her son on the shore. And I was like, oh, that's heartbreaking. That was
Yeah, and then yeah,
a
she just
lot.
can't swim to him. Also, something that stuck in my head, and I feel like they've done it a couple times in these first three episodes. There's a lot of mention of her maiden name of Shipman,
Mm-hmm.
and
Like
even like
Misty says that to her.
Misty says it this episode, and I'm
And
like,
that's what the letter with the tape was addressed to Shauna Shipman, not Shauna Sadecki. So it was someone also from the past.
yes, I'm just like, there's a lot of mention of that specifically,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it's interesting. And then yeah, so Sean is out in the lake and it gets pulled under, and then the weirdest one is Van going back to the cabin,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the
The
weirdest one. It's
fire.
my favorite. It's my favorite one because it's kind of like a. It could be an origin of how the cabin burned down, but
That's
then
what I was
like
thinking.
she's sitting in the rocking chair, but then the rocking chair turns into the airplane chair.
When she was trapped in, couldn't get out in the first episode. And that's literally like Jackie and Shauna's hands, arms trying to come around and grab her. Those are literally like their same outfits, what they were wearing on the plane. It's great. Good
Yeah.
callback.
And
That was a very
I,
interesting one to me too, because I was like, does that mean that? Or maybe Van might have seen that when the fire had started, but maybe she doesn't remember it. Maybe she was kind of asleep, kind of not.
I've heard some people say that that dream is Van didn't start the fire, but Van saw what happened,
Yeah.
and
Maybe her
so
subconscious knows.
people are connecting that to Ty, and that Ty maybe sleepwalking started the
Yeah.
fire, and Van saw it, but Van is protecting Ty.
That's what I've been wondering too, because it feels like it. And then the only thing that people are saying is like, how the fuck were there like the house was like boarded up, it felt like, or like they couldn't get out. They were locked inside. Remember, they had to like break down the door. And it sounds like Ben would have done that. He would have been the only one who could, because how would other Ty do it unless she fucking like Spider-Maned up into the window or some shit? I don't know. Maybe she could. She's capable of a lot of shit. She Spider-Man's up into the trees like that. So I'm
Don't
really
don't test Dark Ty.
that's what I'm saying. Dark Ty could fucking crawl through the ground and then dig up through the fucking cover it up and then have like I don't know. She's crazy. I'm just saying there's ways that this crazy bitch could have done it. However, I also have seen people say, and I kind of agree that maybe Ben did that but didn't light the fire because he maybe wanted to give some time before they got out so that they could
Yeah.
get him because he was trying to get away from them. So maybe he
He
did
does have
that.
one leg.
He has one leg. So I honestly feel like giving him a head start that way kind of makes sense in case they were like, where is he? Let's go. We're hungry. We're crazy again. I mean, I don't think he necessarily did do that. And if he's breathing in all that gas in that cave and whatever, I feel like it makes sense that he wouldn't necessarily have smelt the fire from the cabin. Like I imagine his nose is probably like his sense of smell is probably fucked.
Yeah.
All of
Well,
them probably, but
and bringing up the gas, like the gas thing would make a lot of sense if there's like specific areas where like the gas leaks. Like if it's the area where like Lottie put the bear heart in that
mm-hmm.
stump, like if
Mm-hmm.
there's a gas leak there and like
That
that's
could
where
be
they're
why the
experiencing a lot of stuff. If the gas was somehow either connected to the house,
yeah,
like had power, like it powered the house or something,
or what
or
they
if
were
if it
eating,
was just
honestly.
underneath a leak, and because they experienced a lot of that stuff in the house,
Mm-hmm.
that would make sense. Like them being out in the open, they
They might
they would be fine. Like
that seems why they might be better off this season and not as like paranoid about shit as they were.
yeah,
Obviously, it was still winter, but yeah. And then anything that they were eating, even if it was each other, it was still like we all were exposed to that shit. Like it just felt like a lot of the stuff underground and connected with the mine theory has to do with like underground pockets of like gas or like heavy metal contamination. Like all of this could be fucking with them and causing delusions, hallucinations and like just like literally the animals drinking it from the water and then they're killing the things and eating them. So even
or
though
the
they're now
shrooms they're doing.
the shrooms definitely. So it's more of a biological thing, but it's more of like I think someone even said that it could connect back to like why the plane exploded for Laura Lee when she tried to escape is like the built up all that shit and then the fire like obviously would light it up because
Oh,
it felt like everything just sparked like supernaturally. But as we just saw in the cave, it feels like it was a reaction. And honestly,
yeah.
that's why I kind of feel like they had those really strong hallucinations in there. Is the gas is mixing with the fire and the
Well, and there's no ventilation,
there's no
so like
ventilation.
it's
And he
just
had
they're
covered up with rocks or there'd been like a fucking cave in. So it was like 10 times stronger at that point. At first, I thought, did Lottie fucking drug everyone? Honestly, that was my first. I still always think that. And I'm always worried that that's what's happening because I used to maybe think that she was just really just trying to do something good, but she's really just out to murder people. This bitch is crazy. Like, there's a reason that she was locked up in it. I used to feel bad for her, but I feel like she needs to go back to the insane asylum. Whoever let her out of there, like Misty's line a couple episodes ago of like, so they just let you out, let you walk right out of there, huh? Like, she's talking crazy shit about like, I feel it. Don't you feel it? It's real. We're giving it what it wants. And it's like, so they just let you right out of there, huh? They didn't even. And it's like, I guess, yeah, like her point was that they can't fight with her on religion. She's allowed to believe whatever she wants. But I'm like, but she's believing in sacrificing something to this God. So
yeah.
I do feel like we should have some jurisdiction over this. But whatever. I mean, out in
Well,
the wilderness, they're kind of fucked. But I do feel like this is more of a great, it's a really good explanation for things. I think there's still some mystery. And I feel like they'll kind of hold on to that for a while with the show. But like, I'm okay with getting these kind of answers that almost like we were talking about. They're just bringing up way more discussion points and things.
yeah, because like the gas doesn't explain dark tie,
No, no. And
and
they've said it's not dissociative or multiple personality disorder or whatever.
yeah,
So I think that there is like I'm like wondering what that is, or maybe it is just like this thing is created because of the toxic shit out there. Fuck, I don't know. But why is it coming
yeah,
back out later? I feel like it's got to be something personal with Ty, honestly, because she does feel like a person who suppresses a lot of shit, especially a teen version, where she's like, "No, I will not believe that. I'm gonna just do this, or I'm gonna be this way." Like she's very kind of like focusing on just what she needs to do and not really like letting herself indulge in any fantasy or anything like that. And I feel like that side of her just comes out more when she really suppresses that. So maybe just the stress of the adult timeline and then obviously being in the wilderness is when it fully comes out. I kind of feel like it's a similar thing for Shauna, where like when you're looking at her, like as crazy as that bitch is in season three, like in the teen timeline, she's fucking like living her full life. Like she is unabashedly like fully alive and living her truest self, I feel like, in a weird way.
Hmm.
And it feels like her adult self is like maybe that's the end game. Is she wants to go back to that primal self because that's like who she really is inside. Or maybe she's experienced that because maybe we all have something like that in us. But for her,
Yeah.
she's like, I kind of like myself like that.
She does seem most alive when she's doing some out of pocket shit. But
Literally. I mean, she's like basically taken over the position from Natalie in this episode of being the leader and like even being nice to Mari to encourage her. I'm just like, Shauna's just really sweeping in. And like next week, I think is going to be the fall of Natalie as the leader. I really do.
yeah. Well, then like let's talk about the final hallucination
All three
because
of them.
we get Jackie back. So good to see
Yay.
Ella Purnell again.
I know. I know we're going to see her in another hallucination in the trailer. It shows her with adult Shauna, which will be good. But I'm also like, I just love seeing her anytime. So I'm glad that she continues to come back.
But yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff going on, like Lottie being the teacher.
Of course. And like her quote of like literally like the nicest way to lose somebody is death. And it's like, of
Yeah.
course you would fucking be teaching that, you crazy bitch. I'm just like so over her. But
But I
it felt right that she was the teacher there.
yeah, like I wanted to ask you, like, what did you think the whole snap bracelet was about? Because
I don't know. Do you, or I guess I've seen a lot. I feel like it was like a thing similar to like the eating in a dream, but almost like it easily went on Jackie and she's already dead, and then it easily went on to Aquila and that we both think she's gonna die. And then when Van
it
tried it cut her, which
cuts
like
her.
she has also been rejected by the wilderness. Like the wolf tried to kill her and didn't kill her. And as an adult, her cancer's in remission, but she does have a scar from the wolf, so it kind of matches
Yeah.
with the cut. And then Shauna dying from it, like Jackie slapping that on her was kind of like also you're like, yeah, she kind of fucking deserves it a little bit, but then you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Akila has to do something to save her. So I kind of feel like that might play into like what will happen. But I
Yeah,
also
because
don't know. This could all just be in. It seems like that's all Shauna's dream. Even though they ask each other whose dream they're in, it feels like it's Shauna's because she wakes up from it. But I'm not sure if it was a
yeah.
shared dream or not.
Well, yeah, it felt like a shared dream because the Kila asks Van like at the very beginning, he's like, "Wait, are you in my dream?"
Or am I
sort
in
of thing.
yours?
But yeah, it was weird how Aquila and Van they use the bracelet on themselves, but then the bracelet gets put on to Shauna by somebody else.
By Jackie, which I was like, I mean, Jackie probably wanted some revenge and it felt probably good for her, but then you're like, oh shit, like that was some great fucking horror visuals and I love the blood and like that close up of her eyes. Like you're like, oh shit. Like I was like, what the fuck does this mean? I have no idea. I thought maybe it could also have been how Aquila helped her out with the baby last season when she was gonna die. But I also feel like maybe this is something about how Aquila's gonna do something to save her. But I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It
It's
all
it's
is so like confusing and wonderful at the same time, honestly. Like, because there's so many things you can kind of spin from all of this, but I do like that I'm still like delightfully like surprised at times. Like I feel like these explanations that we've gotten so far for this episode are like two pretty big ones that I do feel like obviously there's a lot more mysterious shit with like shared dreaming and things. Like that could be supernatural. That doesn't feel like a shared hallucination or whatever. I don't know if that's a thing. Um so that feels I feel like there's still mysteries and things that we're not sure about even as we're getting some answers. So I love it. And the answers aren't exactly what we're expecting.
yeah. Well, and the whole like necklace coming back into play gives me hope that they're like we're this is going to be a focus of this season. It's like we're bringing this back because it's gonna play a lot into some of the later stuff.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we see Pit Girl wearing it, and there's the whole theory that Callie is Pit Girl, which is hilarious because it's like I don't think the timelines work out, but great in the idea of like that they're putting the necklace on her already is like, haha, because we were on Reddit too, but also a great fucking scene from that. Like that was exactly what I wanted from adult Shauna. So I'd be like, just give us more of that. But I also am worried about Callie. I don't think she's not gonna see the fucking knife or blade until it's too late.
Yeah.
Really, unfortunately.
Well, and I wanted to ask you, how did things end up last season with the character that was introduced in Lottie's compound?
Mm. She's
Did
the
did
one.
she didn't die?
No, she was the one that Misty was trying to kill though, 'cause she came in and was threatening because Natalie was like angry at Lottie, and so then she came in with a gun and was all like whatever, and then she went to attack, and then or Misty went to preventatively attack her with the, you know,
Yeah.
fucking
The
life-killing
fentanyl.
drugs, the fentanyl, which Shauna even brings up as to why she carries that around with her. And that I feel like that's also a great just thing I missed earlier was that Shauna felt like she was like, and why do you? And then it cut herself off. Some people thought she was gonna say, why would you destroy the black box? But I don't think she would have just said that because that like there's no reason she would hold it back. I think what she was gonna say is like, why would you kill Natalie?
Yeah.
Because it feels like that was the next extension from that. But yeah, so originally Misty was trying to kill her, that
Okay.
chick from last season. People keep asking if she's gonna come back. I'm like, I don't think so. I think that was just a character for a season with Natalie. She has no connection to anything else anymore. I'm really not worried about her, but I think it's interesting that most other people are like, where is she? I'm like, I mean, she was fine, but like, is she that great? I don't know. I did think it was like, I mean, maybe she'll come back because Misty did try to kill her. So maybe that's something. But yeah, she basically did not die. Natalie died for her and it redeemed her from having let Javi die for her.
Yeah.
So it was actually a good moment, even though Natalie was killed by Misty. But you know, there's got to be more drama. So here we are. I'm just
Gotta
excited. I
be.
hope they get more unhinged as the weeks continue because that's my favorite kind of shit, honestly.
Yeah.
Next week, I'm very nervous though for Ben. Final prediction. Do you think he's going to die or do you think he's going to make it through the episode?
No, I'm right, and Ben is surviving this whole thing.
Okay, then I'm going to say I think Ben's going to die this episode, next episode. So let's check in next week and see who was right because I think that'll be like definitely answered next week for sure.
For sure. Well, that's it for huddling up. We'll see you next week when we get the new episode of Yellow Jackets.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. We out here.